world where your data is constantly under attack, one company stands for your digital freedom. Introducing CALIX Solutions, your gateway to ultimate online privacy and secure cryptocurrency trading. Meet the Liberty laptop. With its modified OS and advanced tracking prevention, it's your shield against surveillance. Access restricted areas, use recommended security software, and browse with confidence. Your digital footprint? Virtually non-existent. For the crypto pros, we present the Crypto Laptop. Pre-configured on premium hardware for secure trading. Optimized for your favorite wallets and exchanges, it's the fortress your digital assets deserve. Both laptops come with expert individual training and support. You're never alone in your journey to digital empowerment. At CALIX Solutions, we put you in control. No more worrying about data breaches or compromised transactions. Ready to join the revolution? Visit calixsolutions.io and choose your perfect laptop today. Plus, become an affiliate and earn while sharing the power of digital freedom. CALIX Solutions. Unlock your digital freedom. Give us a call or text at 702-845-8276 or visit us directly at calixsolutions.io.
Good morning and welcome to the Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J. And I'm happy to be reporting to you from lovely Austin, Texas, the heartland. And actually right outside my window here from my hotel, you can probably see that capital of Texas, what's it called? The Capitol building?
State Cap.
The state Capitol building, that round one right there. So here we are. You see that whiteboard? There's a lot of whiteboarding going on strategy with a very, very special guest I have today. Some of you know him. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, let's talk about the New World Order, that dusty old phrase bandied around by bureaucrats tailored in suits and Davos types. They promised some kind of a borderless utopia, a symphony of technocratic bullshit, a hegemony, a control structure, debt, endless printing of money, war under the banner of peace, and a digital leash that they term as freedom. Well, they sold sovereignty. Remember that word, sovereignty, like a cheap timeshare. They printed trillions, and essentially the New World Order was nothing new. It was just a shinier version of the old empire of the tyrants of centralized control, just with a prettier branding. But now those wheels are coming off. I've been looking at what President Trump has been doing. This realignment is happening, not through war or coercion, but through sovereign economics. Look at the way Trump walked into Qatar and got 80 horses in front of the beast, taking him into the royal palace. They treat him like a true friend. Qatar pours in $10 billion into our military bases. Just like that, $10 billion into military bases. Saudi Arabia, no longer just a chess piece, a pawn in the game, but a true partner. Sanctions on Syria, gone, lifted, not to appease the dictators, but to reintroduce them into the new world of freedom, of sovereignty, of peace. This is what President Trump is doing right now in the Middle East. It is a game changer, folks. This is not just another tour. This is a in-your-face recognition that the crumbling of the so-called New World Order is here. It is now. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is holding its line well above 100,000, not because Wall Street said it could hold at 100,000, but because millions of people are trusting the protocol over politics. It's not just a coin. It is a statement that says, screw you, New World Order. I'm opting out. I'm declaring my independence. Nation states are starting to assert their own financial interests. So when President Trump talks about America first, folks, it's not just about America. It is the principle that says we will value our borders, our nation, our people, our culture, our heritage first. And then we'll go out and do whatever we want to do, partnerships in peace with the rest of the world. So while we have been brainwashed with this media, this corrupt media talking about New World Order, let's get them a dose of New World reality. It's not perfect, but it is honest. and it's sovereign. What a time to be alive. With that being said, I want to talk today with a world famous man, a friend, a patriot, a rancher, a cattleman, Texas Slim. Texas Slim, welcome to the show and happy birthday.
Thank you, Jay.
Good to be
here, brother.
good to be with you on your birthday. It's such an honor.
It's good to shake your hand. That's how all this started, was a handshake, right?
See, you heard that, guys. You see, the heart of the American culture, the heart of the cowboy culture, the heart of the American farmer, the food supply, what goes into your children's mouth is far more important than actually selecting which classroom he's going to go to or she's going to go to. Now, that culture of a handshake, you see, the ranchers didn't sign on dotted lines with black ink. They did a handshake. That's how it started. It was one cow, one family, one child being fed good, clean food. And unfortunately, from the 1970s, we had over 1.2 million cattle ranches, and now we have less than half of that. All right. There has been this complete decimation of, what's the phrase you use? The big pharma,
The medical, pharmaceutical, agricultural complex.
That's it. The medical, pharmaceutical, agricultural complex has literally outmaneuvered the American cattle rancher. And we are on the precipice, and I do not exaggerate this in any way. We are literally on the precipice of collapse if someone doesn't do something. And we all hear about this. Our densest protein beef needs to be preserved. It's not about just the food we eat. It is the heritage of what this country is about. Our values, our culture. It starts at the dining table. It starts with every conversation that happens between kids. And this is the man who has taken on that fight, not just today or yesterday. He's been fighting a lifetime. This is a lifetime's work Texas Slim has done. Texas Slim, welcome to the show. Tell me just a little bit of the historical. Well, maybe before we go to the historical, last night,
Yes.
I had the honor of celebrating your birthday over a wonderful steak dinner. We had a giant tomahawk served. We had some good friends with us, and we found, and it was in a very fancy place. It was this. We won't name the restaurant so that we don't malign it one way or another, but
Right.
very fancy. This was not Golden Corral. Okay, so this was a fancy place. They are known for their beef, and the server came up to us, lovely lady.
Mhm.
And she came up with this beautiful presentation of the tomahawk and little flames on the platter. And I asked a simple question: now, where did this beef come from? And she was flummoxed.
Mhm. Well, she did a very good job, and it's easy to see that one kind of interaction with the server that basically is presenting a item of value, right? What is that? Well, the item is the cow, the steak, the beef, the cut of the cow. And so we ask simple questions like, hey, where's this beef come from? And, the answers are she did a great job. She automatically said, hey, this comes from a ranch in Idaho. Okay, that's right on the menu. It already says it. But beyond that, within everything else of that, what they're serving as far as those cuts of the cow, they have no idea where it comes from. It's basically from the Midwest. Okay, what part of the Midwest? There's never going to be an answer until you go up there and you shake a rancher's hand and you develop that relationship. And that's what we've lost. And you don't have to lose that relationship just because of how we steward our land, our money, and our access to that basically value product, because they do price it up there pretty much, didn't they?
I sure do.
I mean, it was very inflated. From what I know in the cattle industry, was it a value for value exchange? No. Why? Because nobody understands the true value of the cow anymore. Right there. It's a marketing plan. And that's what she was speaking, was the marketing plan of the restaurant.
And it was a steakhouse. And so let's dig into the value,
Sure.
right? We talk about the cow having value, but as you can see, here was this little cut of beef, which was good. It, as Slim said, it wasn't the best. It was good.
It had a good name behind it.
It had a good name behind it. And yet the price of that beef that was served was probably the half the cost of an actual cow.
Yep.
Right. So the value has been sucked out of the cow. It's no longer the farmer who's getting it. It's all the downstream, the guys making the economic models and the guys doing the insurance and all of that other stuff that goes around that has sucked the value out, which is leading to this decay and destruction of the American cattlemen.
You bet.
So, Slim, talk about the historical perspective of Caprock, of Canyon, Texas, of its place in the world of feeding America, how in 1878 Texas became the state that fed America.
Right.
That's the heritage. And let's go from there to understand how value decrease has happened.
Well, and it's fun because you get to look at history, right? And we know how they're trying to rewrite history. Let's get back to the source of the seed of where we came from, man. It doesn't have to be prideful. It has to be something about culture and heritage. Looking back over your shoulder saying, how did we first start out? Everybody's always been bragging about United States cattle industry being the best in the world because it is. Well, it started in Florida, and then it kind of came to Texas, but there's a lot of history to understand. In Texas, the Texas Panhandle, where I come from, is the Llano Estacado. It's basically Camacharia, of those days gone by. Places like Canyon, Texas, right now, still to this day, 85% of Texas cattle come through that corridor. Well, that's close to Amarillo, Texas, and you've been there. You've seen the whole perimeter around that land that I speak of. And so if you look at that throughput of the cattle that basically comes through my hometown corridor in the state of Texas, let's look back into 1878. That was the beginning of the cattle drives, and it started basically after the Civil War. We had a lot of cattle that was in Texas that got just basically left behind, but then rediscovered, once we got settled. The Comanche Wars ended. That was the longest standing war in the United States. And how do we end that war? Well, the United States government decreased and deleted the basically the food supply of our adversaries.
So they couldn't actually win on the battlefield against
Texas Rangers, the Union soldiers.
So they killed the buffalo so that the food supply was gone.
They commoditized the bison in a way. How did they commoditize it? Well, they took away the market access to those stewards of the bison for thousands of years. That was the Native Americans. And so what are they doing now? They're decreasing our market access to the same quality of nutrition that sustains a community.
The same strategy that was used to eliminate all the bison,
yes,
and thereby wipe out the Indians, is the strategy that the globalists are using today. The big pharma, the big agri, the big tech, they're using today to remove the densest protein from our food supply, from our children. What you're eating in some of these fast food places, I won't even start to tell you what's in there or what's not in there, but I can tell you it ain't beef, folks.
Well, it could be and it might be, but why do we play a guessing game anymore when you don't have to? And that's the power move in life right now. Let's get back to the source of the seed. Okay, Texas Panhandle, once again, you talk about, Caprock Canyon, that's where we saved the bison. That was Charles Goodnight. Let's get back to understanding where we are. Texas fed a nation in 1878. It started with the cattle drive. It started with basically moving cattle from one place to another. Then the rail yards came, and then we started shipping beef up to Chicago, Kansas City, New York, and everybody kind of caught on that, hey, this is a good system of starting over, restoring a nation that had lost itself. And so if you can have that critical thinking in these layers of time and history, it's pretty simple to get back to the source of the seed, how we start. I saw that. This is where I come from. Whenever I started the beef initiative, it was years of research to get to where we are, to where I could launch into, we're going to do it this way. What did I identified? I identified that the pain points and the bottleneck of having market access to true nutrition is at the multinational level processing center. Okay, you've seen them. You came to that part of Texas.
So describe why that is the epicenter of this battle, because guys, it's truly a war that's going on right now.
Sure.
And it is going to be a war that'll be won or lost by the involvement of people, the involvement of you. This is really important. So Slim, explain to us why the processing center becomes the epicenter of this battle, and how do we grow the tree of life and value from there?
You bet. Well, if you look at a producer, you know, you look at our inventory of cattle in the United States, okay, that comes from independent producers. It comes from bigger ranches, all kinds of stuff. It's like an hourglass. We start way up here as far as a big possibility. And so once you steward the land and the cattle, you have a chance to make your profit as a producer. Where are you going to sell it? Well, you're going to sell it at the auction house. And you've seen Amarillo. It was once the biggest marketing hub of cattle in the world in the 30s during the Dust Bowl. So let's look at that model. Okay, we lost 147,000 farms and ranches the last 5 years. We're losing 40 of them a day right now. Because once we surrender that cow that we've stewarded from our land, from the water table up, with our inputs, everything, we sell it. It's a one-time sell to that auction house. Okay, who controls the auction house? Well, it's supply and demand that comes through that multinational processing center. So once that cow becomes beef, becomes meat, we have no control where it goes, if it goes overseas, if it stays in our communities and everything. So we lose the ability to price out our margins because it's a one-time shot that it involves weather, input costs, diesel, grains, feeding systems, you know, logistics, geographics, droughts. We don't have any versatility in that.
Is it true that majority, if not all, of the processing centers are now owned by the big companies?
Yeah.
And that the little guy has to go with his value just to one of those?
That's what he does. Yeah, he becomes a serf to the, you know, to the multinationals. And it's nothing that, you know, has happened overnight. You know, Texas has 254 counties. We used to have 254 microprocessing centers. And you saw the end result of that in Texas, in Canyon, Texas. Mm-hmm. We're feeding a 30-mile radius because we're taking ownership of the cow through a microprocessing center. Now we get to use the tallow. We get to use the fat to turn it into tallow, basically. The suet, the byproduct. Now we're creating all these revenue streams from that microprocessing center. We're taking it and distributing it with our brand identity instead of surrendering our brand identity into the multinational system.
So guys, let me break this down for you. So here's what I learned. In order to win this battle against the big conglomerates who are basically destroying the beef industry, the soldier that we are electing is Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
And we're going to get into beef plus Bitcoin. Why? Because that is sovereign. That is something that gives the power back to the rancher. Bitcoin is what will allow the rancher to take back control of the value that Slim speaks about. He's the warrior who's been going around. Now, there are three things that he said that I really found interesting. Number one, the processing centers are the epicenter, and the idea that we can start to have microprocessing centers that are not controlled by the big guys is essential to the strategy.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of number one. Number two, he talked about tallow. Tallow is actually the waste, the fat waste that is cut off and literally taken away. And yet, that is one of the densest forms of nutrition. That's you can cook in tallow, which is a whole lot better than cooking with canola and cooking with all kinds of oils and margarines, and which are literally carcinogens, which can cause tremendous harm to your body, to your life. So you start with that. When he talks about the value of a cow, you know, an average person like me says, "Oh, steak." Okay, but once you start to understand the layers of value, you have the tallow, you can create the beef jerkies, you have the cuts of beef, you have the ground, you have the 50 different, you have the hide, you have the hooves. There's every aspect of it. You know, these hats that we're wearing, this little patch of leather actually came from an American rancher. It's almost impossible today to find hide, which is American made, because we are getting everything from China and Brazil, right, from Mexico and other places. So just to have an American-made little hide like this is a big deal. Now, that pride, that honor to the cattlemen, to our American heritage, has to be realized. So realize that the cow is the tree of life. It is so many different things. It can spawn so many different industries. So, okay, Slim, we understand that taking a hold of the processing is important. We understand that taking a hold of the whole cow is important, because even think of things like liver. These are organs that are thrown out. And yet liver capsules, if you can take the liver, dry it up, grind it up into a powder, put it in a capsule and sell it, there is tremendous value and profit that can be made from that. The Beef Initiative talks about that tree of life. So Slim, talk a little bit about the value of a cow and what is the strategy that the rancher, the cattleman can take, the American cattleman can take to preserve that value. Let's assume that we can get this processing, that we have that micro processing capability under your initiative, right? Now we're signing up ranchers and they're saying, okay, Slim, tell us, how do we make money? And how does that translate to the best quality food that your children will eat? Because at the end, it's our consumers who are putting the face cream based on tallow, who are eating those capsules with liver, powdered liver in it, omega-3s, the meat on the table. You know, there's so many things that we will be doing for each one of you.
You bet.
Talk about that value.
Well, once again, we got to get down to the, what are they trying? I mean, WHO, everything that's unfolding. Within my research, what they're doing is they're going after the data attribute of the cow, of the land, the water table, and everything. They're trying to identify it so they can take even more control of it in this decentralized or this centralized capture, that unless you decentralize out of that mindset in that industry, you don't really see how you can basically get to the source of the seed on how to honor the cow within the delivery thereof from that processing center. Okay, right now our hides are, basically thrown into the dumpsters. And this is just true factual stuff. Our tallow that goes through the multinational system, it's being taken and turned into biodiesel. So they're getting a double profit margin off of our basically waste.
But none of that goes to the farmer.
None. It's that one-time sell at the auction house. You're done. You got to start over with basically the herd that you have, your breeding cow, everything that you're going to do with your bull system, your input system. You got to start over. God willing, you get to make it to that next sell. Maybe it's 12 months, maybe it's 18 months. Okay. So within that model, let's forget about the multinational model. Okay. I'm an independent rancher producer. I come to Texas Slim in the Texas Panhandle and say, I've got 10 cows. And I have so many options for that producer now. I'm another bid for him. So I break it down with very good education because, 2 times around the world and 300,000 miles across this nation, you understand the pain points of our producers. Slowly you educate them saying, hey, I can take these hides, I can take all of your suet. This is going to be a new revenue pillar for you. Okay. And then, within the Beef Initiative, we're going to be able to consult a wholesale and retail model on how you take ownership of your cow before you even steward that cow into fruition to becoming a beef, becoming a meat product that exits out of the processing, out of the harvest. It's been a harvest of deception over the last 50 years, in the 70s.
Yeah.
Now we just reverse that by taking ownership at the center of the Dow of where we can change ownership of that cow to where we enhance the profitability to the independent rancher producer. We enhance the health of the cow because we have a grading system now that we can pass into a wholesale retail model that consumers and producers both win at the same time because we're going to stand by our brands.
Before we break for a quick commercial break, Slim, just give us a sense of the size of this market. Because as Slim talks about the value of the cow, guys, understand this is big business. And there are opportunities to invest into this, and it is bigger than any tech company that you know. So, Slim, when we return after this, we will actually go into why Bitcoin is so critical to this and why the bank that we just bought in El Salvador is so critical to this initiative and how it's going to be a mutually beneficial partnership. And all of you, those who have invested both into the bank, into the Bitcoin plus beef program, you will be looking at a market which is how large?
Okay, right now the current global beef industry is a 420 to 430 billion dollar market.
Guys, not 40, $400 billion
yes,
market.
400 billion. Okay, by 2030, with all the plans that they have, there's been a war on beef. There's not a war on beef. There's a war on access to the most prime beef in the world. It will be a $760 billion industry by 2032. And the only way it gets there within basically a Bitcoin decentralized mindset, an independent sovereign rancher producer, is to take ownership of the cow. And that's what we're going to do.
All right. So we're going to come right back after the word from our sponsors. And then we're going to talk about the beef plus Bitcoin and how you can start to participate in this $400 billion market opportunity. If we can get just one of those 400 billion into that beef plus Bitcoin, which is what we intend to do, this is a very significant opportunity. And I'm going to talk about beef jerky. I'm sorry, beef sticks. These are some of the best, finest beef sticks, and how the American military bases are talking to us about that opportunity. So take it away. Let's break for an ad. We'll be right back.
Attention visionaries and pioneers, the future of wealth is here, and it's spelled B-I-T-C-O-I-N, Bitcoin. Introducing the exclusive Loans for Bitcoin program at the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where your good credit unlocks 0% interest loans for up to 2 years, or term loans up to $250,000 spread over 7 to 12 years. Why wait? Use this capital to acquire the world's fastest appreciating asset, Bitcoin. With prices hovering around 94,000 and projections aiming much higher by the year's end, the time to act is now. Leverage isn't just for Wall Street anymore. Arbitrage the low cost of your loan against Bitcoin's explosive growth. It's smart finance for the modern investor. And privacy matters. Our no KYC Bitcoin purchase program ensures you buy and self-custody your assets in your own wallet. Your keys, your Bitcoin, your future. And as the world shifts to digital currencies, be ahead of the curve. Front-run corporations, governments, in this greatest financial revolution of our times. I'm Jay Bose, CEO of Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club. Call or text us today at 941-413-6920 and get started on that loan application. Secure your legacy. You will thank yourself tomorrow.
And we are back. So here with Texas Slim, reporting from Austin, Texas. Today, this is where I am. We're working on strategies of the Beef plus Bitcoin initiative. But, you know, before even we go into the Beef plus Bitcoin, let me tell you about this really amazing opportunity that is presenting itself. This is a beef thick snack stick made of some of the finest, purest protein that you can find. Okay, I'm going to hold it right there so you can see it. This is the densest protein. Now, this is the Reminisce Ranch, you know, Angus beef from Montana. These are products that are being made, and I'm looking at the nutrition and the content. There are no long words with dexo, hexo, acid, this, that, and the other. It's just basically natural smoke flavored, beef sticks, right? Citric acid, water, salt, spices, right? This is as pure as this thing gets. And guess whose attention this has caught? It has caught the attention of our military bases, because our soldiers in Fort Benning and Fort Hood and all the different places, there is a new initiative under RFK's leadership that says we need to provide the highest quality the nutrients and food to our soldiers, the ones who are fighting wars for us, the ones who are bringing peace to us and providing us our sovereignty and freedom. they need to eat clean food, non-mRNA jab beef. They need to have these meat sticks that they can carry, that have a good shelf life, they can put in their backpack. And these orders can be multi-tens of millions of dollars for every single base, okay? And they have approached Texas Slim to start negotiating what that would look like. So Slim, tell us a little bit about this initiative to make this all beef snack stick, and what does it mean in terms of the opportunity for revenue for beef initiative?
Well, I mean, it's a simple, small little product right here, and it's sustained, it's dense with nutrition. And how do we get there? Well, we took out all those big words. How do we do that? Through an input protocol, how we feed basically all the way to the water table, to the soil, to the forage, to the cow itself. This is Brian Massard of Reminisce Ranch in Montana. He's an independent rancher producer that has exited out of the centralized input system of Bayer Monsanto. Just keep it simple.
Yep,
okay.
Yep.
He doesn't have to play that game. He's got his USDA processing center. He has a relationship with the right people in a vertically integrated ranching system. Now he gets to basically look at everybody and say, hey, Slim, you and I have been working together for years. I want to sell all my beef as local as I can to feed my community. I partner up with him. I love your input protocol system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you sell your beef from that wholesale level. Why? Because you have so much demand coming at you now that we can bring in other producers through his protocol system, that input protocol system. Okay, every producer can now look at Brian Massard of Reminisce Ranch in Montana and say, hey, I'm going to get into this protocol system to develop this clean beef.
Hey, you think you could develop something like this for our Bitcoin Ben beef sticks?
It's all about standing firmly in your brand identity. So
there you go. Guys,
that's the wholesale model that everybody has to do. Stand by your brand. And where do we start? Well, you start with that handshake of a rancher. And you say, what are my pain points? We discovered Brian Massard's pain points over 6 years ago. Okay, now we have the finished product that is now a vertically integrated food security system for him, his community, and he now has full ownership of the cow because he has control through the processing center, through his brand identity, and then therefore we could develop a wholesale and a retail model of selling beef that these producers have never seen before.
Now, guys, at the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, our members, we are partners with Texas Slim. We have a wonderful relationship, and if I get the right kind of input from you guys, feel free to give me a call. We have the opportunity to make these amazing beef sticks, and we can have it custom for the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, which we can distribute, we can sell, we can use for our own children, our families, but at the same time for all you creative types out there. And I'm talking to so many entrepreneurs every day who are members of our club. I'm sure you will have outlets and opportunities where you say, listen, I'll buy wholesale through the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, and I'll go retail this out to X, Y, and Z, and you take a margin on it. So there are many ways we can skin this cow.
Yes. Well, let's talk about that real quick, because this is one rancher. This is one rancher. And how many farms and ranches have we lost? 147,000.
Yeah.
This is how we quit losing ranchers, is that first basically handshake. Everybody doesn't have to worry about that now. That's what I started the Beef Initiative in, and we have so many people that have come behind me. And let's look at the ranchers that are the founders of the Beef Initiative. The first handshake was Justin Trammell. Everybody go to rancherstorefront.com in Canyon, Texas. Go to Panhandle Processing in Canyon, Texas. That was the first rancher, but within several days, it was Cole Bolton. Look him up on basically, Twitter and X. Everybody knows him in the Bitcoin space because we've been feeding a lot of Bitcoiners for over 5 years now. And that was through the engineering of Cole Bolton with his basically decentralized system on how he is a cattle rancher and how he basically created a processing center down here in Central Texas. So we have that full model in the Texas Panhandle. We have it in the heart of Texas. We also have it in Colorado with Jason Rick of Rick Ranches in Norfolk Valley in Colorado. He's another independent rancher producer. Each one of these guys can basically help us now steward this collective collaboration that other producers and ranchers can come in through this gate now. We have a very narrow gate, but once you get through that gate, it is the new beginning of our food security system led by our ranchers.
So what I'm hearing is that we have a lot of production capability. We have the highest quality beef. Texas Slim has already, under the beef initiative, secured those relationships.
100%.
Now, our opportunity to both invest and make money is we can not only get these beef sticks, we can brand it as Bitcoin Ben beef sticks. We can have distribution channels, not only to our members, but beyond that into business opportunities. And also we talked about the tallow. We now have the capability to actually bring tallow, which is used both for cooking, which is amazing cooking fuel, but also for face creams and other types of products, beauty products, skin products that tallow is used for, very high value because it's highly dense in nutrients, that omega acids and other things that our skin needs. And so that's another opportunity. We have a huge amount of production capability for that, both at wholesale and retail levels. And again, that is something I will start to talk with some of our interested parties in our club to see who wants to take that initiative. And of course, we have the Beef Plus Bitcoin. Most of you know about it. The $5,000 gets you an entire year's of beef from the finest cows. You get a free refrigerator, which can store up to 150 pounds. You get 4 shipments per year of about 100, 125 pounds each time, which basically feeds a family of 4 with the finest beef for the entire year for less than, for less than 0.05 Bitcoin, actually less than that, right? At the $102, it's $5,000 for the year, and you'll be feeding your family of 4 for the entire year with the finest beef. So we have that program already in place. If you want to order your beef for the year, just call that 941-413-6920. We'll provide you the information to place your order. Okay, so just wanted to get that out of the way. But now let's go, Slim, to the Beef Plus Bitcoin initiative, and I want to talk about. Tell me about you've been driving, meeting ranchers from all around the country, and you're more on the road than you're at home. And tell me, what have you learned from the financial situation? How can we help with Bitcoin and our El Salvadorian bank and our new loan structures?
Sure.
How can we help these cattlemen participate in this Bitcoin economy?
Well, and it all comes from that handshake with that one independent rancher producer. But what you find out is there's a pattern, right, that they're suffering through, that they're having to really look at now that they haven't ever had to. Money's drying up. We know that. We're in a crazy debt cycle in cattle ranching and agriculture right now. That debt cycle has almost come to an end. So for cattle ranchers, the price of a cow, you've priced it out. It's pretty expensive to grow a herd. And if you're a successful cattle rancher right now and you're independent and sovereign and you don't play part of the technology use agreement of the multinational system, the money's drying up. So once again, this is a form of asset reallocation going on within our producers and ranchers. It's one form that we're losing over 40 a day. So let's look at the money. Let's get to the level set of how are we going to fund and finance within a new system, a monetary system that us cattle ranchers have never had access to. Bitcoin. It's the base layer protocol. It's a ledger, just like my damn grandfather used to use. Let's bring some common sense to this. Where do we go for money? We have to go to the bank, a fiat bank that is centralized. And if we don't, it doesn't matter if we steward our cows correctly, if we're making perfect money, if we're basically doing everything right, they don't have access to give us the same money that we used to have. And so this is a moment in time in history where I've been on the road for, 6 years now. And every bit of this comes to a moment in time of a whole shot of opportunity. The bank in El Salvador. Well, we're going to become the bank. How do we get there? Well, we get education.
So guys, here's what I learned. The only way for the cattle rancher to participate in this new way of doing clean beef, etc., is if they can get a loan from the bank.
Yep.
And to buy the baby cows, right? And that is not happening because every time they go to the traditional banks, you know what they tell them? They tell them you got to participate in one of the programs run by Cargill or JBS or Monsanto, which sucks the value out of the cow, because the moment they say, oh, it's too risky, we can't give you a loan until you participate in one of the big boys programs, and they're being paid for doing that, right? So now what you have is a situation where you are forced to participate in buying all the feed from the big guys, getting all the mRNA jabs from the big guys. Unless you do that, you don't get the loan. So the epicenter, just like on the production side, is the processing plant. On the financial supply chain of this equation, that first banking loan is the epicenter. Yeah. That is where they control the inflow of everything. And these big pharma, the big agro, they're all working with the big banks, the fiat banks. And if you can throttle the farmer around his neck with that loan, you already got the rest of it. The rest of it is a done deal, right? The value is sucked out of the cow before even, the farmer keeps believing that on one day he's going to go to the cattle fair and he's going to get his money and feed his family. Sorry, folks. That game was over the day you signed on that bank statement, right? On that bank loan. So here's what we are doing. Here's where Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club comes in. Here's where our acquisition of the El Salvador Bank comes in, and more financial institutions to come. Ben has an amazing vision. He doesn't just want to replace a bank. He wants to replace basically the IMF. He wants to replace the Federal Reserve, right? Because our reserve is going to be in Bitcoin. And that is a reserve that no one can touch. The governments can't take it. And yet we are allowed to give loans against that. And when we give these loans to the farmers, who will, by the way, come in and put money in the bank, so they will build the treasury up themselves as a co-op. And when we give these loans, there are going to be no conditions. We're not going to go and say, oh, gee, you better go and get Cargill's feed and Monsanto's feed and corn. And by the way, you have to go to this vet who's going to put these 5 little jabs and take your blood sample and say, oh, gee, you got to put another $1,000 worth of medicines into that cow. None of which is required, by the way. They're not going to have these restrictions. So you see what's emerging is the beef plus Bitcoin is actually mutually beneficial. It benefits the beef and the cattle ranchers because they can now get access to capital that they sorely need. But by doing so, they're becoming sovereign. Yes. They're becoming free. They're breaking away from the shackles. By the way, my friend Steve gave me this Bitcoin branding thing. What do you call this? Stake branding. So when you come to the show in Las Vegas, we're gonna have our Beef Plus Bitcoin Initiative folks, and those who place an order will receive one of these for your home. So as you make a steak, you can stamp it, sizzle it, and serve it on a wonderful plate. It's gonna look awesome. You're gonna be a true Bitcoiner, right? With this thing right here.
Let's talk about that. Where did the Beef Initiative start? I wrote The Harvest of Deception. It's in, do a Google search, do a Brave search, do whatever search you need. But there's something unfolding that we identified, us cattle ranchers, many years ago. We said there was a perfect storm coming. Well, we got right into Bitcoin and beef many, many years ago because we have to bring proof of work. We can't talk about this. I'm not an influencer, that's for damn sure. What we are is we're level setting basically a new business model that we understand who the competition is. We don't have to talk about the multinational system anymore. It's not about blaming and saying, hey, you're bad, you're bad. It's an invitation for everybody in the world to come into a system now that brings value back to the cow. It brings value back to our land. It brings value back to our rancher. It brings value back to our children. Because this is started because it's basically we're here to save children's lives. We can do that by rebuilding our herd of cattle in the United States. And if we take the opportunity, this whole shot, because it is a whole shot, it's something we've been working on. And Jay saw the impact of everything that we've done last night. He understands that this is a golden opportunity for a new gold standard of living with a gold standard model of cattle ranching, which started with Bitcoin and beef. And, you know, we have cattle ranchers that are founders of the Beef Initiative. They've grown their herds because of this model, because they sold beef for Bitcoin. They hodl, they leverage everything you're supposed to do within Bitcoin. Don't look at cattle ranching as the same as buying a cup of coffee. What you do, if you choose to use Bitcoin and leverage it into a relationship of a rancher, then what you're doing is you are getting him level set to be able to steward his heritage, his legacy, his culture, everything that his grandfather did whenever they created that brand. It's about brand identity. And if we stand by the brand and we allow our producers and ranchers to not have to worry about this monetary shift, this food shift. You know, I started with, you know, Bitcoin, I was Marty Bentz, Tales from the Crypt. We've had so many, Matt Odell, Daniel Prince, that was years ago. And what we had to do is we had to go out there. We had to just kind of tell Bitcoiners, this is what we're going to go do. It's a spiral DNA that comes back now. We're at the base layer. You see it now. You've heard every story about me traveling around the world. There are no borders here. The centralized banking system is still going to be there. But what do we have? We have a ledger now that we can leverage into that is going to be just like we used to ranch and from the very beginning. You've heard me say, I never met a cow that didn't love grass. So we're going to get beyond all this grass-fed, grass-finished, all this. We're going to support the United States cattle rancher because we're going to build new ranches across this world. I've been to Australia, Asia, Europe, and we can do the model that came out of the heart of Texas anywhere we want, standing by brand identity with a vertically integrated system that starts with the relationship, builds, we manage the relationship, and it's got all the tool sets and the tools in that tool set that we need now. This is a call to action. And you bring up tallow. Why is it so important? Well, it's a byproduct. It's a waste product that's been leveraged against us, or it's basically it's trashed. We're going to honor the cow. We're going to be able to grade beef, fat in different ways than USDA's ever seen. And it's a new system. It brings technology, right? We're bringing technology to cattle ranching. We've never had that. Who controls the technology in cattle ranching, from enterprise-wide software, from banking systems? Well, it's the same people that has got the war on beef. Let's reset the system. We've got to get to the source of the seed of those zeros and ones. What does it all mean? Let's get to the data set level. Let's build the tree of life, index a new vertically integrated system that is based on mind, body, and spirit. Tallow, fat, we can grade it now to be the densest form of nutrition, because that's where you get your nutrition in beef. It comes from the fat molecules. If you look at, online, let's look at the microbiomes of our gut. Our skin is our second stomach. Let's let the cow basically honor us if we honor the cow the way in where we came from. It's so simple. It's complicated, but it's not complicated anymore because we got people like Jay. He's seen it all. He's had the grand tour, and he puts it together very well. And so we have that advisory council. All these producers, go to beefmaps.com. Look at that. Look at that visual that we've created. It's a compass. Those are independent ranchers and producers that are waiting for you. And then go to beefnews.org. That's keeping up with policy work, everything that's going on in real time. We know what's going on within the current administration. We read it every day. We have a new Bitcoin reserve, a crypto reserve. Well, how do we solidify that reserve? Let's bring a tech stack that basically leverages empowerment into our producer. We can't lose our producers anymore. We got to give them new access to a form of financial system that they've never seen before. It takes a lot of education. That was the first conversation we had last night. How do we get there? We're going to get there through education, education, education. If we do that, then we can make an industry move right now that has no borders, and it has a new base layer of value to the cow itself.
And folks, it was that education that Bitcoin Ben started our clubs with.
Yes. Yes.
educating people on Bitcoin. And now we're getting to that next layer of value where Bitcoin can start to affect and start to positively impact almost every business in the world, right? As money becomes sovereign, as the ability to send money to anyone, anywhere, anytime, any amount without the federal government or a border crossing or somebody else telling us when we can send it, or the fat banker telling you can only send a wire between 9 o'clock and 2 o'clock Eastern time, all that goes away. And what that creates is sovereignty. It creates sovereignty for the rancher, but it creates sovereignty for you. More than just putting the finest beef for your children, for your plate, for your body. As Ben says, you know, the one thing he says, I will never let you sell Bitcoin. Hodl it. The only time I would ever let you do that is if it's for your health.
Yep.
Right. So it's not just about the beautiful, clean beef, densest protein you will have on your plate, your children will eat, but it's also about sovereignty. It's about heritage, and it's about culture. So when we protect, it's a symbiotic relationship. We as consumers, when we protect our cattlemen and our farmers, and we provide them work, and we provide them capital, in return, what we get is tenfold. It's so much more than that beautiful cut of beef on your plate. It is preserving your heritage. It's preserving our culture. It's preserving who we are as a people. All right. So with that said, we are going to have Slim and the Beef Initiative folks at our Las Vegas booth. We are looking forward to a fantastic partnership.
Yes.
I think that this is one of the verticals where Bitcoin can make and will make and is making a very profound difference. And imagine, folks, just for a second, if these initiatives that we are undertaking together, you and I and Ben, and as a team with Bitcoin, Ben and Slim, we start to move that needle on a $400 billion industry. This is a monumental effort. It is an opportunity not just to make a lot of money, and that's going to come, but you're going to be doing so much good for your own country and for the cattlemen of this country, and preserving the cowboy culture, and not letting these little soy boys drinking their lattes sitting in their mom's basements, making real men in our country. That's worth fighting for. That is worth doing something about. And hey, I'm a businessman, never walking away from money here, but just tell us, just a sense, let's assume we get just one of those contracts from one of the Fort Hood or Fort Bend, just one contract which says we're going to supply beef jerky to one of the military bases, to our men and women in uniform. What would that contract size look like?
Well, you look at, the numbers of let's just look at, here in Texas and, certain base here. If you supply that base with beef sticks, one pack for the whole base, that's 1,000 cows per month. Okay, think about that. How much does 1,000 cows cost? We did the math.
So roughly, let's say 10,000 a cow.
Yep. And so, well, no, not basically. If you have 1,000 cows and you have to finance those cows from the beginning to the end, you look at the live weight of cattle right now. What is a fat going at? The live weight fat cattle, it's the most expensive it's ever been. They're making ungodly amounts of profit off that cow. And so who's paying that, right? That's the money that we're trying to get away
That's a
from.
$10 to $15 million contract, yes, according to my calculations, right?
Thank you, sir.
So,
man.
Yeah. So just saying that, as we go into this, as we partner into this opportunity, a single contract from a single base could be north of $10 million.
Yes.
So
that happens every day.
Yeah.
Every day of our lives, through Cisco, Benny Key, through the processing centers. Those contracts are facilitated plenty of years in advance. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. Mr. Hegseth of the defense, he said, we're not going to be fat, we're going to be fit in the military. And so let's look at that. Okay, everybody, this is a reset. This is a health reset. This is the Great American Initiative being led by the Great American Rancher. Okay, we have the MAHA movement. Well, 6 years ago, the Beef Initiative said this is a Great American Health Initiative being led by the Great American Rancher. I'm glad everybody's catching up. We've got a 5-year head start, and that's what they're seeing. And they want to honor our work, our proof of work that we've performed.
Fantastic. I think we went a little longer than I wanted to, but we have a lot of strategy session to do right on that board today. We are going to sign off from Austin, Texas. Slim, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and knowledge about beef. And thank you for being a warrior for the cattlemen and for the American heritage.
Yes, sir. Everybody can be a servant leader to all of our ranchers and producers all across the world. You don't have to ask for permission, man.
It's an honor to have you today on the show. Happy birthday again.
Thank you, sir.
What a great day it is.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you very much for being on this, watching this show. We will be talking soon. I want your feedback. I want to hear about, what are the kinds of things that you think we could do potentially with tallow, with beef sticks, with the beef initiative. There's a tremendous opportunity here, folks, to transform an industry, and we can be right in the center of it in the Beef Plus Bitcoin. So with that, have a great day. God bless you, and God bless America.
Introducing the Liberty Laptop, your gateway to online anonymity. Engineered with your privacy in mind, the Liberty Laptop comes equipped with cutting-edge security features, ensuring that your data remains yours and yours alone. No more worries about your personal information being shared without consent. Say goodbye to prying eyes and third-party snoops. Enjoy your online freedom with advanced privacy settings, protecting your every digital move, all at your fingertips. With the Liberty Laptop, you control what others see and don't see. We customize your privacy settings and let only what matters most to you be shared. No more concerns about unwarranted surveillance. We put the power back in your hands. No unwanted access through the laptop's camera and microphone. Powered by the latest technology, the Liberty Laptop ensures performance while respecting your personal boundaries. The Liberty Laptop. Your control. Your privacy. Your world. Visit calixsolutions.io to experience true personal freedom today.